But what we're looking at here is not the magnetic field, but the atmosphere below the magnetosphere. You see that thin layer right there? That's our atmosphere. Another feature of the atmosphere has to do with objects that enter into our atmosphere, and they're very cold out in space because space is cold, but as soon as they begin to hit the atmosphere, the friction of their fall causes them to become incandescent. They begin glowing. What do we call those objects? You see them in the sky? Meteors. When they hit the Earth and you find them, they're called meteorites. And there's basically two types of meteorites. Rocks that have come from space are glassy meteorites, and there are iron meteorites. Actually, I have an iron meteorite. I'll pass it around. It's from Mexico. You'll get to hold a piece of rock that came from space, actually two. You'll see one of them is very heavy, that's an iron meteorite, and the other is fairly light, that's a glassy meteorite. But both of these objects at one time were floating out in space, and now they're in your hand. There's a glassy meteorite, which I have here, a tektite, and an iron meteorite. It fell a little bit further. And this is an iron meteorite. This is part of a large fall in Mexico. They think it was probably a large asteroid that broke up in the atmosphere about the time of Abraham. And it just sent fragments of iron all over northern Mexico. And you can see on both of these, there's a part of it that's relatively smooth. And that's the part that was coming through the atmosphere. And in the glassy meteorite tektite, you can see the spalding, the fragments that have broken off on the outside of the tektite. But anyway, this is glass. This is a tektite or a glassy meteorite. You can see the flat side is where it came into the atmosphere, and the other side you can see pock marks from the heat where it spalded off. Just them so you can hold a piece of rock that was floating out in space at some time. Actually, the large iron meteorite is probably inside of a gigantic Buick-sized chunk of iron. Actually, I think the largest fragment's larger than that, so it's probably bigger. So, iron meteorites and glass meteorites. Meteors can occur anytime in the night sky. However, there are particular times where we have meteor showers. This is a photograph of a meteor shower. You see the separate meteorites? They're actually coming from this region of space. They can predict meteor showers, and they can tell which part of space they're going to come from. You know how they do that? You ever wondered about that? I talk about the Perseid meteor shower. It's going to happen like on August 20th. How do they know?
The comets going by and stuff will trail.
Exactly. When comets are making their path around the sun and that material's coming off the comet, it leaves debris all out in space. And they can tell when our Earth is going to pass through that debris. And when our Earth passes through that debris in its circuit around the sun, it creates meteor showers at a particular time in a particular part of the sky.
Because they can see the debris after.
Well, they know the path of the comet,
So
and they've tracked the path. Yeah, the comet's constantly leaving debris. It's not like there's some debris here and not there. It's just the whole path of the comet has debris, and we're moving through it. Always, when I'm thinking about that, I always picture when I'm driving through Kansas or something, and they have like all those grasshoppers, and you're driving like 60 miles an hour, and the grasshoppers are hopping across the highway, and you can see them hitting the windshield of your car and streaking across the windshield. Well, what's happening when we have a meteor shower is the Earth is like the car, and it's driving in to a bunch of grasshoppers. It's driving into a bunch of debris from a comet, and they're hitting the windshield, so to speak. That's what the streaks are, or the pieces of ice and rock from the comet that are hitting the windshield of the Earth. Okay, and they come into the Earth and become incandescent. And if they're large, they actually, the outer surface becomes so hot and the inside is so cold that it creates a temperature differential that causes it to expand and explode. And that's a good thing, right? Our atmosphere heats up the meteors to such a temperature that they explode into smaller meteors. So if you have a meteor the size of Criswell College, it explodes and becomes the size of several buildings, and explodes and becomes the size of several Buicks, and explodes and becomes the size of your hand. And that's a good thing, because by the time it hits the Earth, it's fairly small debris. And since the Earth is 70% water, chances are it's going to land in the ocean anyway, not on you. Anyway, this is photographs of meteor showers. Ever seen a meteor shower? I've never seen a major meteor shower. I've seen some of the smaller ones. My dad loved to tell the story about the time he saw a meteor shower. He was at the deer lease. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he went to the outhouse. And he's sitting in the outhouse taking care of business, and there's a sparkles going on outside. He could see through the planks, in the outhouse. He could see sparkles. So he opened the outhouse door. It's like these objects just falling from the sky like this. So, like that, from one part of the sky. There are instances where meteorites actually do make it to the Earth's surface. And most of the time they hit either in the sea or in unpopulated areas. If you've ever been in an airplane, when you look down, there's lots of vacant land, right? The cities are just very small little microorganisms that exist. And so most of the meteorites fall out in fields and so on, but occasionally they'll hit in urban areas. This meteorite went through somebody's garage and through their car. They've got to get that repaired. Here's a tektite that went through someone's living room. It went through the ceiling and bounced next to the washer, it looks like. This meteorite came through their foyer, bounced into the kitchen, and burned through the linoleum. They were watching All in the Family, and they hear this big crash in the front door, and they look, and there's a big black rock the size of a bowling ball bouncing into the kitchen. And they go in there, and they smell the burning plastic, and it came from space into their house. There have been a few instances where they've hit people, but it's like glancing blows. I've never heard of anyone being killed by a meteorite. This woman was hit. She was laying in bed in the middle of the night. She felt something hit her side, and you see the big bruise there. It went through the bed and embedded in the floor. Actually caught the bed on fire, I think. She's a very fortunate individual there.
If I want to go out, that's how I want to go out.
No, I can think of a better way to go out, because it might miss, it might wound you.